Hello. How's everybody doing today? Can you guys hear me okay? Yeah? Okay, perfect. Oh, there's Kai.
Hi, love.
Hi.
Good
Do you
morning.
let me see. Can I unmute you? You're unmuted. Can you test your mic? See if I can hear you here.
Can you hear me now?
Oh, wait, it might be me. Hold on. It's a preference. It says.
Am I good? Can everybody else hear me? Sweet.
Okay, I can hear you now. Can you still hear me?
I can.
Okay, good. Oh, these settings on Zoom when you've got multiple microphones and all the things.
Running quite a show over here.
Oh yeah, it's a full production. That's
Right?
for sure. Oh, how's it going?
Good morning. It's going.
So
Yeah.
good.
Beautiful. Beautiful moment to be gathering.
Mm-hmm.
I'm doing a call. She's doing a call.
Oh, let's see. Not everyone seems to be muted here, so let's just double check that everyone is. Okay, Kai, you'll have to unmute yourself again because I just muted everybody.
Okay, cool.
Instead of manually going through one by one, just easier to do it this way. Yeah, I agree. It is the perfect time for us to be gathering with each other today. And, you know, as per usual, the topic is right on target for many, many, many reasons. Oh, apparently the speakers just want to turn off. Okay, well, we'll turn them back on later, friends. Yeah, so if this is your first time here at the service, we are going to start with a meditation led by my best friend, Kai. I'm so excited. And then we're going to do a little song. We're going to move to a little song to kind of anchor in whatever gets stirred in the meditation. And then I'm going to do a sermon for, well, probably about 25 minutes. And then we'll wrap with a prayer vortex. So that's our structure every single week. And we'll be done by 12. And if you do have questions throughout the service, you can put them in the chat. I'm not going to answer them during the live service, but I do read everything after, and I will either answer it in the Facebook group or I will answer it in the weekly newsletter that goes out. So one way or another, it will get answered, just not while we're in flow in the service, because that just would be wonky for everybody. So get comfortable. I'm going to pass it over to Kai. Kai is, you know, one of my deepest and truest friends, my soul sister, my wifey. I adore this woman. I know you've all heard me talk about her multiple times in the Sunday service and some of the space that she's held for me to really feel seen and come back into even greater integration and wholeness with myself. And there's just this very special bond between the two of us. And right now, Kai is actually like the full embodiment of what we're going to talk about in the sermon today, like burning things down so we can really, really rise. And she's been walking this path for a little while now, and I'm so proud of her. And I can't wait for you to all experience her magic. And yeah, I'm so excited. So Kai, we're right at 11:05. We're right on time. If you want to do a little extra intro to that, that would be great. And if everyone who's watching, if you want to say hi and rate where you're from in the chat, that would be cool too. That gives us context to where everybody is from today. All right, Kai, the floor is yours. I'm going to mute myself so that there isn't any background noise, okay?
Yeah. Okay. Thank you for that beautiful intro. It's truly an honor to to be on this path with you, Kels, in this space with each of you today. So I know we're talking a pretty big topic in today's sermon, burning down old paradigms, old identities, old systems and attachments to versions of self and versions of the world that are no longer in service, in alignment with a deeper truth our hearts know to be true, as well as our souls. And what an interesting time to be alive during such a big transition. And yeah, I mean, we're here for it. So thank you for showing up and being here in this space. I'm going to guide us through a surrender process meditation, which is the activation of 4 gateways of the feminine. In a lot of my work is currently, and has been over the last 10 years, around reclaiming the feminine principle. So that is emotions, body, sensation, pleasure, sustainability, reconnection, right relationship with the earth. So this meditation is not necessarily focused on increasing awareness or understanding patterns or the mind at all. It's around focusing on feelings, getting back into our bodies, so that we can connect to the innate intelligence that is right here, right now, in our bones, in our cells. So I'm going to invite each of you to find a comfortable seat and close your eyes if that feels comfortable. Of course, doing whatever feels easy for you and supportive and safe for you in this moment. So we'll take 2 big deep inhales and exhales, just allowing ourselves to ground into the body, into the present moment. Taking a big deep inhale in through your nose, just allowing that air to enter and go deep, deep into your body, bringing it all the way down into your pelvis, into the seat of your belly. And then big exhale out through your mouth, releasing any tension in your shoulders, just allowing everything to soften and relax here. Then taking one more grounding breath here, big deep inhale, biggest inhale of the day yet. Thanking yourself for showing up, thanking yourself for being present, for staying here, for listening. And then big deep exhale out through your mouth. Now with your eyes closed, just begin by gazing deep into the blackness behind your eyes, the void, that deep, dark, infinite space. Letting your vision go far and deep into this empty fullness, this limited, unlimited space of potentiality that is darkness. It's the fertile soil of the feminine. And when we allow ourselves to move deeper into this darkness, into this blackness, we start to release, we start to soften, we start to expand what is possible. So we're going to activate the first gateway now. And this gateway to the feminine is to soften the face. So softening your face, softening your eyes, softening your eye sockets, softening the back of your eyes, just allowing your face to soften, to relax. Now gently opening your bottom lip and allowing the breath to enter in through the mouth and out through the mouth throughout this process. With each inhale, just going deeper into the belly, into the body, And exhaling, softening your skull, softening your skull bones, softening your jaw. Notice how much tension we hold in the face. Tension of looking beautiful, keeping a smile on our face, showing face, and just letting all that go. Letting it go, letting the face totally relax and drop. Letting go of how you think you need to look. Letting go of needing to look a certain way, to have a certain expression. Just dropping the identification with the face entirely. And as you do that, as you drop the need to look a certain way, feeling and sensing into who is underneath, letting this mask of the face drop. And feeling deeper into yourself with each inhale and exhale out through your mouth. Now we're going to activate the second gateway, letting go deep inside the belly. So sensing what it feels like to be deep, deep inside your own belly now. Noticing where you might be holding resistance in the belly, any tension, any grasping, any rigidity or stuckness or holding. Just allowing that to open up and release. With the most gentle presence available, inviting those places to open, to let go as you move deeper and deeper into the center of your belly, deep, deep within yourself. The belly is the center of our vulnerability. And for many of us, we tuck it in, we hold tension there as protection. But as we go deeper and we allow ourselves to move deeper into that center, we realize that this is also the center of our power. The fire that protects not only ourselves, but the circle of life, all of humanity, children, Mother Earth. So just allowing yourself to drop deeper and deeper into the belly, letting this protection drop, letting these layers shed away as you tap and tune back into that deeper space of knowing, that deeper space of wisdom, your instinct, your intuition, your holy fire, just noticing what it feels like to receive. There's nothing to do. The feminine is all about receiving. And as you receive the moment, allowing your belly to continue to unfold, letting the moment in, letting it be felt fully, staying right here with the sensations of the body as you continue to soften your face, soften your jaw, and moving deeper and dropping, dropping, dropping anything that just needs to go. I'm going to invite us to unlock and activate the third gateway of the feminine, which is the inhabiting of the back body. So the front plane of our body is associated with doing, making things happen. So right now I'm going to invite you to sense into the space of your back body, the back of your head, the back of your heart, the back of your pelvis, the back of your skull, just moving deeper into the body, noticing the depth that is available in the body when we're not focused on doing and we're just open to receiving and being in this space. Feeling how deep the body goes as you rest back into the throne of your body, letting go of the surface, letting go of the doing, and just resting into this quality of being, feeling fully supported by the back body, letting each moment in, dropping, continuing to drop the layers of holding, the layers of doing, as you continue to soften and unfold and deepen the belly, softening the face, breathing in and out through the mouth, just noticing the opening and the expansiveness that is available when we move into the back of the body, when we acknowledge and move our awareness into the back of the body, allowing ourselves to sense what it feels like to be in our back body. Now I'm going to invite us to activate the fourth gateway, which is finding the suppleness of the spine. In this world, many of our spines are rigid, upright, uptight, trying to keep it all together, and I get that. But right now, today, we're going to find the slow, subtle movements of the spine. I'm going to invite you to imagine yourself as a seaweed anchored into the bottom of the ocean, and just allowing the waves to gently caress your spine. You might find subtle movements of your spine, just feeling what it might feel like to allow some fluidity to enter into your spine. Being caressed by the waves as you deepen into the body, into the back body, relaxing and unfolding into your stomach, keeping everything soft, releasing the identifications with who you think you need to be, what you should be doing, and just letting each breath weave or flow through each vertebrae as you sway back and forth, flowing towards ease, towards nourishment, and maybe allowing your head, your neck to sway a little bit. Just noticing what that fluidity feels like in the body. To just flow like seaweed. Keep letting go and letting the moment in, dropping down, dropping down. And then with one big deep inhale, thanking yourself, thanking your body for being here, for showing up, for listening, for softening, and for being open to receiving. And on the exhale, I'll invite you to slowly open your eyes, taking in the room from this place, from this space, just noticing how it feels to come from this place in your body, from the feminine, from this open space of receptivity. And then entering ever so lightly, gently, grounded into the fertile soil of the feminine, into this Zoom call with Kelsey so she can drop her magic.
Yummy. That was so good, Kai.
Love you.
Love you too.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So normally we pick like a really like high energy song to move to, but today that just wasn't feeling like the right thing to do. So today's song is a little bit slower, of course. I didn't know what Kai was going to do in her meditation. But this like essence of being like seaweed and kind of like weaving like this. The song that I picked has that very like hypnotic kind of wave to it, and about like that same pace of like how like seaweed or like the body would sway with a light breeze. And so I want to invite you to allow your body to move in the way that it feels like it wants to move to this song. And that could be like you lay down and you just soak it all in, or maybe you like roll your wrists and like twinkle your fingers, maybe you sway, maybe you get up and like move your hips. Like it really doesn't matter. Like it's, this time is for you to listen to that intuitive wisdom of your body, because so much of our life, as Kai said, is doing. It's like this forward movement. It's this action. It's not really tuned in and dialed into the sensations or the cues of the body. And so when we come to this segment every single week, we get an opportunity to just tune in for 3 to 5 minutes of how does my body want to move in this moment. And the more we cultivate that muscle of just what does my body want to do? How does it want to move? How is it responding to the essence of this music? Then as we do that more and more and more, we go out into the world and we can start responding to life from this place of also taking into consideration what is true and alive in our body, so that we're not doing at the expense of self-abandoning. We can still do and be attuned to our body. But for a lot of us, like we're really out of sync with that whole sacred alchemy. We're out of sync with that sacred connection. So this is an opportunity for you to play with it. I'm going to see if these will turn on again.
Power on.
Oh, goody. They're working. I don't know why they turned off, but all right. So this is your song. It's called I See Fire. By Ed Sheeran.
Oh, misty eye of the mountain below, keep careful watch of my brother's souls. And should the sky be filled with fire and smoke, keep watching over during the storm. This is to end in fire, and we shall all burn together. Watch the flames climb high into the night, calling out, Father, oh, stand by and we will watch the flames burn over on the mountainside. And if we should die tonight, we should all die together. Raise a glass of wine for the last time, calling out, Father, prepare as we will watch the flames burn over on the mountainside. Desolation comes upon the sky. Now I see fire inside the mountain. I see fire burning the trees, and I see fire see fire, blood in the breeze, and I hope that you remember me. Ocean might be profound, and surely I'll do the same. Confined in mountain holes, we got too close to the flame. Calling out, Father, hope lost, and we will watch the flames burn over and on the mountainside. Desolation comes upon the sky, and I see fire inside the mountain. I see fire burning the trees. I see fire alone in the soul. I see fire burning the breeze, and I hope that you remember me. And if the night is burning, I will cover my eyes. For if the dark returns, then my brothers will die. And as the sky is falling down, it crashed into this lonely town. And with that shadow upon the ground, I hear my people screaming out. And I see fire inside the mountains. I see fire burning the trees. I see fire in soul. I see fire burning the breeze. I see fire. Oh, you know it's on the city burn. I see fire. Feel the heat upon my skin. And I see fire. And I see fire burn over on the mountainside.
Just going to turn these off so they don't make extra noise. Okay. It feels like the right song. For many, many, many reasons. Okay, so just a little like housekeeping, I suppose. If at any time you need to get up and move, or you need to hydrate, or you need to pee, or you need to do any of those things to attune to your needs, please do them. There is a recording, and you can go back and listen to any parts that you may have missed. But it's really important that you attune to your body and the cues that it's giving you, because sometimes, like, depending on our background, depending on our history and our experiences and our trauma, certain topics can be more tender than others. So I have no idea what will be tender for one person and what will be tender for another person. So I need to count on you to manage that part of yourself, to know ooh, if this is feeling tender, do I need to move? Do I need to stretch? Do I need to go get some water? This happens to me all the time. I was taking a class on healing the nervous system, and there would be times where the instructor was talking and I'm like, I just need to get up and move. And I need to walk into another room and come back to the recording when I have capacity to do so. So it's really, really important that we practice that here with each other. And this is a bubble of acceptance. There is zero judgment. If you need to move, if you need to change positions, if you need to hydrate or go to the bathroom, these are all totally acceptable things. But oftentimes, in the paradigm that we've been birthed into, The paradigm, is built on a template of self-abandonment. Like, it requires so much of our self-abandonment in order to participate. Because in order to be in a culture that values doing over being, you will have to override your system time and time and time again to produce results, because it's in the producing of results that your value is, based. And, if we don't have value and worth, then, that's a pretty dark and dire thing to sit with. So we acclimatize to the world around us, to the paradigm around us, to the culture around us, to, become the thing that the culture values most, which is, be a good little doer. And I say little very intentionally, because this paradigm also would like you to not be bold, not be in your fullest expression, not be in the fullness of your humanity, which we're starting to see that is no longer working, because so much activation has happened on the planet, obviously very recently, but it's been happening for a while now. And it's kind of snowballing to this breaking point. And so we see the breaking point on an individual level when it comes to how many people are just waking up and challenging the status quo, waking up and being like, is this really all there is to my life? I really feel like there's something more. There's something bigger. There's something more that I'm destined for. And so I'm going to be talking about it from an individual level today, but this absolutely applies collectively, because what's happening on the individual level is always a representation of what is happening on the macro level. And so we can work with those two systems to really bring some more balance, some more harmony, some more peace into the collective as a whole. And we do that through first our own alignment and first our own awakening. And so often with an awakening, there's this inevitable rupture point, this point where just shit hits the fan and things fall apart. And in that cracking open, in that despair, in that like really tender open space, that's where we start questioning, there must be something more. Is there something more? Am I living my life on my own terms? Or am I living them on terms that I inherited from either my family system, the society around me, culture at large? Like, who am I living for? Am I living for me? Or am I just on autopilot? Am I just kind of going through the motions and doing what my parents did, or doing what my culture did, or doing what I think makes me a good human? But is that really attuned to who I am? And before we have these moments of awakening, we kind of go through life a little bit oblivious. Like, we're not totally tuned in, like we were talking about last week, of impact and intent. We're not totally attuned to our impact before we have an awakening. Now, good news for everyone here, because on some level you've had an awakening to even be following this type of content, to even find yourself in a session like this. So like that's really important stuff to celebrate. And in terms of moving towards this new paradigm, we have to celebrate those micro wins. We have to celebrate those little steps along the path, because they aren't actually little. They're huge on a cosmic level. They're huge in terms of your reclamation. And so we really want to acknowledge, I really want to acknowledge every single person here, because you've already done some of the really hard work to get to that point of cracking open. And I kind of think of it like we stay asleep until we're rested enough to wake up. And we have to stay asleep, and we have to accumulate all of this information, all of this data. And then we finally have enough, and we're like, okay, I'm bursting at the seams. Let me out. And then the destructive or like massive rupture moment happens. And it's in the rupture that these little seedlings that have been planted start to root, and then they start to sprout. But that's a process. Like that's not an overnight thing where like, okay, we plant a seed and then we have a tree. Like that's not how it works. We have to really tend to those little seedlings. And until we wake up, like there's still a process of either accumulating seeds or just accumulating data of the world around me. And like for us to really know what something is, we have to understand what it is not. And so if you want to know what peace is, you have to know what peace is not. If you want to know what love is, you have to know what love is not. And so a lot of the time while we're asleep, we're accumulating that data of the information of our soul, what it wants to express. We also have to learn the contrast of that. We have to like experience it on some level to be able to distinguish, oh, okay, there's something else here. There's something else available that I'm willing and open to step into, which is, no small feat. And for a lot of us, that takes a good amount of time. I have not yet seen a teenager go through an awakening like this, because there are certain experiences that we must have before we can really get to that rupture or awakening moment. And once we hit that awakening moment, all of a sudden, it's like this lens gets switched out. So the way that we were seeing life is now completely different. We're able to see the interconnectedness of everyone and everything, including what's going on in our body, represented in the culture at large, but also what's going on, in our small little communities as a representation of what's going on in the collective at large. And when we start to see the interconnectedness of ourselves and the collective, but also ourselves and nature, this is one of the most beautiful parts of awakening, is we see how cyclical our experience is, especially as women, who have literally a monthly cycle that mirrors the cycle of nature. And we start to see like, oh, maybe there's a lot of information. Maybe there's a lot of wisdom that has literally been in front of my face my whole life. But because of the lenses I had on, I was not able to see it. So it's like we do this like glasses change. We're like, okay, cracking open happens. Those glasses, like we throw them away forever. Once you have an awakening, you can't go back. That's the good news. But also it can sometimes feel like bad news, because you're like, oh, being awake, it's intense, because you feel things more than you ever have. You start to see what's happening on the planet, also being connected compassionately to yourself. So if you're seeing injustice in the world, you're also feeling that in yourselves. And that can be really, really intense. And, as we go through our awakening process, we're actually expanding our capacity to be with the reality of life, because we can't change reality if we're not willing to acknowledge it. Like we just can't. And so when we want to change the world in like this big, big way, we have to look at like, well, what am I not looking at in the reality of my own life, in the reality of my own experience? Because if I'm stepping over big stuff in my own life, chances are I'm going to try and do that same bypass out in culture as a whole. I'm going to try and like push away the stuff that's really uncomfortable and not look at it and be like, la, 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 not in my reality. Like I had a friend once and he was on like the love and light, like only love and light train. And it was in Vancouver when the riots were happening in, I think, 2010. And so there was a lot of sirens because we were downtown. So there was a lot of sirens because, there was a lot of fire happening. And I was like, wow, there's so many sirens. Like, and it's weird because we were on the 27th floor, and to be able to hear them that high up was also like not a usual thing. And he's like, what sirens? I don't hear any sirens in my reality. And he literally put his fingers in his ears and he's like, not in my reality, not happening, not in my, and I'm like, whoa. And that was one of those moments where I'm like, if you're denying what's actually happening in front of you, you can't transform it. Like, it's not that the sirens going off is the problem. It's the denial that the sirens are going off. That's the problem. And when we can embrace that the sirens are going off, then we can actually do something. And we're connected enough to be able to use our gifts and our talents for this, like in service to the greater good of humanity, the greater good of the planet. And, you know, before we have our awakening, we still are in touch with those gifts. Like, we're still playing with them. We're cultivating them. We're getting to know them. However, there can be like this very me-centric experience of the gift. Like, I'm using it for me. I'm using it for me and to propel my life forward. And I think of it like I'm a musician, I sing. So before my awakening, the gift of my voice was for me. It was so that I could, you know, become famous. You know? And like, there was just a very different experience of that gift. Then after awakening, I'm like, whoa, this gift isn't for me. This gift is for the planet. And if I hold this gift back, I'm actually ripping off the planet from a piece of its healing integration, the healing puzzle. Because every single person on this planet has a piece to the reclamation of the world. And in order for us to make a big substantial change, each of us individually has to wake up and reclaim those gifts, which is why we meet in service like this. This is why we do self-love work. This is why we do relational work. This is why we do healing work. Because once I'm more available to my experience as a whole, I don't have to shut down my shadow. I don't have to turn away from it. I don't have to do the fingers in the ear, la, 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 not in my reality. I don't have to do that. And when I have built my capacity to be with my own experience, then I can step out and understand that my experience impacts another, which also means my gifts are meant to be in service of another. That's where they really get their magical expansion, is when we use them in service for another. And, you know, one of the things that I've kept in mind during this whole process of my own awakening is that even if a song that I write only gets to like one person on the entire internet hears it, that is good enough. If one person, you know, comes to a class or comes to a service, that's good enough, because every single life has so much significance. It has so much value. And if that one life is forever transformed because they hear something that, ooh, and now like I can, you know, connect all of these dots, or I can connect some more dots, that is really meaningful. And so sometimes we can get caught in that idea of like, if it's not like thousands or hundreds of thousands of people that I'm influencing or impacting with my gifts, then what's the point? And then we really have to take a look at, well, what is the point? Like, how much value do we put on one person's life? Which means, how much value do I put on my own life? Do I value my own experience being here in this human incarnation? Or am I still dissociated from certain parts of myself? Which means if we're still dissociated from certain parts of ourselves, that's when we have to go into the burning down of these paradigms that are binding us. Because sometimes that block is actually a bind. There's a paradigm there that's been designed on purpose to keep you small. It's been designed to keep you stuck. It's been designed to like entice you and like almost hypnotize you into a false reality, a reality that really disconnects you from the wholeness of who you are, which is, you know, problematic in many, many ways and for many, many reasons. And so we use the analogy of fire for a reason, because fire is such an alchemical element. I mean, all of them are in their own unique way, but fire is really transformative. It is the medicine of creation and destruction. And if you haven't watched this show, I highly recommend it. It's called Little Fires Everywhere. It's on Amazon Prime. That's where I found it. And I watched the finale last night. I'm not going to give it away, but I do want to quote, this is literally, she was talking about fire and setting things on fire. The whole series is about fire. I'm like, of course, we're about to do this service. And so one of the characters says, after the burning, the soil is rich and new, and life can grow there even better than before. Which is why we want to burn these paradigms down that no longer serve us. And that doesn't mean setting literal fire to your life. That's not what it means. Although it can, if you do it in a safe container. You know, boundaries are a really important part of working with the fire element, because without a boundary, so think of it like a fire pit. A fire pit is the boundary for the fire, so that the fire doesn't explode, because without the boundary, it is going to explode and burn everything down. We don't want to burn everything down. We just want to burn down the things that are no longer serving us, the things that have kept us small. And in order to really be in contact with that, healthy burning, we also have to contact our anger, our healthy anger. And same with anger. Anger without boundaries can turn into toxic aggression really fast. And so we have to have boundaries internally and externally when it comes to working with our anger. But our anger is the emotion that helps us tap into that sacred fire, that holy fire. Like, what pisses you off? And you know what? Right now, in this exact day and time and imprint on the planet, there is a lot to be angry about. And if we're not angry, we're not paying attention. But I know for everyone here, your eyes are wide open. Your hearts are open. You can see what's happening. And on some level, I imagine you have felt rage. You have felt anger. You've felt the heat of that. And that's important, because when we feel the heat, then we can start to look at, okay, what are the ideas, the beliefs, the circumstances, sometimes the people that have been really reinforcing this paradigm that, think of yourself as a plant with all of like these seeds that have started to sprout, and like you're ready to break out of that container that you've been put in. You've outgrown the container. And so in order for us to really like spread our possibility and spread our gifts and our illumination in the world, we have to burn down the box that we've been put in. We have to burn down that original structure that was designed to keep you bound. It was designed so that you don't expand too much. Because if you expand too much, you can't be controlled. You can't be manipulated. And if you can't be controlled and manipulated, well, what in the fuck is this world going to do? Because there's a certain small percentage of people in power that, get to be in their, I wouldn't even call it their full expression, because, to me, it's, deeply, deeply engrossed in the shadow, because it is not standing for the liberation of every single person. Like, if you use your power, you use your privilege to liberate not only yourself, but other people, you've done a good job on this planet. And if the people in power who hold that power and privilege also adopted that same mentality, we would see a very different world. And so I don't see that happening anytime soon. But what I do see is the collective, which is much bigger than this small percentage of people in power. The collective's waking up. And when the collective wakes up, which means each of you individually wake up to your own innate gifts, That means each of you individually burn down the container that binds you. As we do that, the momentum of the people starts to balance the scales. And when the people remember who they truly are, I had a friend, his name was Randy Ponzo, and he wrote a beautiful song. I will put a link to it in the email. And, he was writing songs, decades ago, and he died in 2009. And he wrote this song, and the line still haunts me. He's like, humanity, remember who you are. And in order for us to remember who we are, we have to, first individually remember who we are. We have to remember that we are like the divine incarnated into human form. You have all of the potential of the universe in yourselves. But the paradigm that we have been born into temporarily erases that memory, and we have to walk the path of awakening to reclaim it. So it's not totally wiped from your hard drive, but you have to go and hunt for it. You have to go and walk the path of reclamation, which is uncomfortable. Facing your shadow is uncomfortable. Working with your boundaries and your anger is uncomfortable, especially for any woman on this call today. The paradigm that we were born into is a paradigm that also gives you the narrative and the message that as a woman, you can't be angry. And so we mute that part of ourselves. And then when we've muted parts of ourselves that need to be expressed and they need to be online, we end up either going totally dim, and we live this life where we're just going through the motions. And I'm doing this to make my parents happy. I'm doing this to make my family happy, my neighborhood happy. It's wild who we live for until we wake up. And when we wake up, we can say, I'm living for me in service of my family, in service of my community. It's not like we have to dump all of those relationships. And it's also, this is an important thing, it's not our job to go and try and crusade to get everyone in our lives on the same path of awakening as we are. That is not our job. But what can happen, going back to that essence of being, the more that you embody change, the more that you embody who you truly are, that becomes the invitation for their free will to turn towards you and be like, what are they doing over there? They seem really happy. I want some of that. I don't know, what you're doing or what you're drinking or what you're eating or what you're, what's going on in your life? And they turn towards you. And if they don't, then there are plenty of other people who are also turned on in their soul awakening, in their soul mission, who are going to see you and identify you as one of them. And there will be a new family that gets anchored in. But again, walking that path is tough because it requires us to have faith. It requires us to trust in something that we can't see. And that is one of the alchemical processes that happens on the journey of awakening and then burning down the house that binds you. And when we're unhooking from these old webs, these old identities, we often do need a phase of time where we are alone, and not totally alone, but disconnected from the web or the community or the relationship that pulls us into the undertow of that pattern. We need space and distance to really be able to re-anchor into who we are. So that doesn't mean forever you have to slice off certain relationships. And I think of this, in terms of a romantic relationship, because that's the easiest one, or a family, where you have this awakening and there is often a phase of time where there has to be some distance. Otherwise, we just keep recreating, especially in a family system, Like you have your awakening and you're like, yeah, I'm really making progress. And then you go and spend a weekend with your family and you're like, fuck, like I thought I was doing so good. Like, was all that for nothing? And that's not true. It's just that your environment is not conducive to the expansion of your awakening. And so in those early days of kind of reintroducing these new parts of you or playing with new paradigms, it's often very helpful to remove yourself from the people that trigger you most to fall back into those codependent patterns. Because that's really all it is that we're falling back into a codependent pattern where we're bound. We're bound to an old way of being where we have to be small in order to be chosen. And so, like for me, when my awakening happened, I moved to another city. And, you know, there have been times where I've had to leave relationships. I'm like, okay, like I need to pause from this. And, you know, those are always like really important moments because they give you perspective. They not only help you see clearly more and more and more, because the more time you get to train a muscle, the stronger it gets. And, you know, we wouldn't, you know, have this idea of like, ooh, you know, I want to get like really strong biceps. And we do like one bicep curl and we're like, yes, I'm set for life. And then we go into, you know, an exercise class where they only focus on your calves. And then you're wondering why your biceps aren't getting trained. It's because the environment, the class, is not conducive for toning that muscle. And so once you're rooted strongly enough in who you are, the new paradigm that you would like to embody, then we can introduce those relationships in microdoses, especially if we're talking about family, because those relationships are very karmic. And I could go on for hours as to why those tethers pull us so quickly. But, you know, if we know that our family is a karmic tie or like an ex-partner is a karmic tie, we want to introduce those, if it's healthy and appropriate to, in small doses first. And you want to start to notice, like, at what point do I get pulled off my center? And so let's say with your extended family, you go for a weekend and you notice by day 3, you have spiraled out into like your old ways of being and you're shut down, all of that. So what you would want to do, this is bringing it back to boundaries. If 3 days you're like off the rails, then your boundary is a day and a half. Not even 2 days, because 2 days could easily like get you into that wobbly land, and then you could fall into the, you know, off track zone. So we limit it to a day or a day and a half. That way you stay in your power. You stay connected to know what you know is true and these new paradigms. And you also get to experience your family for who they are. You're connected to reality. You're not trying to change them. You're not trying to get them to be different. You're like, okay, you're you. And I can be here and appreciate that without getting caught in the drama, because I've put a boundary and I know my limit. I know that if I go past a day and a half, it's going to be bad news central for me and for you. So I'm not going to do that. And there might be some initial upset about that, but you know what? That's part of the fire. We have to feel the heat of someone's discomfort in order to really stay attuned to who we truly are and what we truly need. Because if we keep putting ourselves in the lion's den and we don't have any tools to work with that lion, the lion is going to eat you for fucking dinner. So this is the process of becoming good little lion tamers, the good little lion trainers. That's what we're doing here, so that you can be in those environments. Because if we do the la, 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 not in my reality, that does not help anyone. That doesn't change anything. That just has us be in our cave of denial where we're blocked off, but we're not actually creating momentum on this planet for a new paradigm to actually anchor in. So, you know, we just have to be really, really attuned to those boundaries. Watch and see, like, how much time does it take before I get kicked off kilter? And then when you get kicked off kilter, don't judge yourself for that. Be like, this is very important data. Very important data. Because now I know at what point do I kind of fall off the alignment train. So now I scaled back from there. I don't even let myself get close to the point of falling off. And you might for a couple times as you kind of figure out what those boundaries are. And that's okay. And as we do that, the fire in you can start to burn and blaze brighter, which means that you're burning away more and more of that old paradigm that no longer suits you, that no longer serves you, and in all honesty is not serving the planet as a whole. But there are a lot of people that are hypnotized by that paradigm still. And so, as we become unhypnotized and we become more awake around what's happening and what's going on, then we can use our innate gifts, because every single one of you has an innate gift. And you probably have more than one, because I have yet to meet one person who only has one gift. Like, we have multiple gifts to give and to embody. And as you set the path to reclaim those and own them and see them as the gifts that they are, and think about it this way, what do people come to you for? What do people in your community know you for? And if you don't know the answer, do some asking, do some inventory. Ask your friends, when you think of me, what do I bring to your life? Like, what would you come to me for? What am I known for? That's a good question. In this community of people, what am I known for? And when you poll a bunch of your friends or a bunch of your family, you'll get a good picture of recurring themes. I am the secret keeper of our community of friends. I am the mother hen who holds all the secrets. Like, there's a safety there. But there's like this ability for people to feel safe enough to tell me their deepest and darkest stuff, knowing that it's going to be kept safe and in the vault, and that they're going to be met with acceptance. So that's one of my big core gifts. But I also have this core gift of music and the ability to speak and all of these things. Like, it's not just one. There's multiple gifts that every single person has. So start by polling your friends, polling your family, only if your family is a safe thing. Like, if you're going to get a sarcastic remark back and like, oh, you think you're so special, don't ask your family. And also that would apply for your friends, but most of the time our friends are more willing to answer this question without being sarcastic. And if it really threatens the family paradigm, then don't go there. Like, let's keep it in the zone of what doesn't trigger you. Let's keep it in the zone of what really causes alignment for you. Does that make sense? Yeah. I see we're 4 minutes over. So I'm going to stop it there, because obviously I could rant about this for a long time. So we're going to move into the prayer vortex to seal everything today. So if this is your first time, if you have someone that you would like to hold in the prayer vortex for healing, please put their name in the chat so that we can really, really intend and send a lot of love. If there's just a general intention you would like, then pop that in the chat. And I'll just give you a couple seconds to do that while I get some water. And then find a comfortable seat or lay down or anywhere where you can feel a little relaxed, and just take a couple deep breaths to ground yourself. And if it feels better to keep your eyes open, if that feels safer, you can do that too. It's okay. Dear Divine Creator and Creatrix, God and Goddess in the Trinity of True Love, we call to you to meet us with your extraordinary brilliance. Thank you for meeting us here in True Love's union. I call to you to reawaken the divine calling of my soul. I know my path is designed for a sacred purpose, and I'm ready to embrace the totality of this expansion. In the moments of turmoil, both internally and externally, I invoke sacred protection of the divinity that lives in me and all around me. May I understand these moments as the alchemical potency they represent. I call to the overflow of love, peace, and protection to guide my path, even in the darkest of moments. I call to courage to instruct my actions, even when it is painful or hard. For this is what strengthens my soul's integrity and amplifies my capacity to access and actualize my holy gifts. May the fire in my belly set ablaze and light the way home. A home where the fullness of my spirit is welcome, a home where the wholeness of my humanity is safe, a home where the brilliance of my heart is the sacred reminder of true love embodied. All of the delusions, chains, beliefs, and paradigms I have unknowingly accepted, may the truth of these binding agents be revealed in the heat of the fires of love. I call on deep remembrance. I call on my ancestors. I call on my guides and sacred protectors to wash my mind, heart, eyes, and body clean of any imposter beliefs, paradigms, or ideas that have impacted my capacity to see myself and others through the true lens of love. May I be brave to burn what no longer serves me, trusting in the destruction that new possibilities can and will be birthed. May my boundaries be fierce, potent, and turned all the way on, so that the sacred fires of this alchemy burn only what needs to be released and safeguard myself and others in the process. The creative potency of my soul's journey requires me to release my fusion to bonds that hold me back, bonds that break my soul integrity, and bonds that maintain the oppression of humanity and of the soul. I understand we're not free until all of us are free. And as I take out the sacred sword to cut the cords to all that doesn't serve my sacred rising, I am also opening the way for others to rise along with me. I turn towards and face the fear I feel. I name it, I embrace it as me. I turn towards and face the anger I feel. I name it, I embrace it as me. I turn towards and face the despair I feel. I name it, I embrace it as me. I turn towards and face the disgust I feel. I name it, I embrace it as me. As I walk the path to wholeness, though I might be frightened, though the light beyond the tunnel may be faint, I hold with unwavering trust and faith that following the sacred burn is the pathway home. May my path be blessed. May all those in my universal family be blessed and cared for as we all burn away the evil, the deceit, the oppression, the false light, so that together we all may revel in a new earth, anchored in respect, truth, justice, integration, wholeness, and deep true love. In the name of divine love, thank you and amen. Yeah, that one was a doozy that came through last night. Yeah, so that prayer will be included in the email that goes out tomorrow, and the email will also have the replay to today's session, so you can go back and listen. And I think that next week we're going to take off because I think I'm probably going to be on my period and I'll probably be tired. So but I'll keep you updated in the email whether we are going to have a session next week. But for sure, we'll be back on June 14th. And until then, I'll be active in the Facebook group and sending emails. And if there's anything you need, please do reach out in the Facebook group. That's the best way to kind of get a hold of me or ask any questions. And Kai, thank you so much for being here today and for guiding that meditation. And for everyone who showed up today, thank you. I love you. Mwah. And we will see you very, very soon. Bye, friends.